Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Healthy Forest Podcast brought to you by Stewardship West. My name is Dan Hutner, and I am here with the board members of Stewardship West, and we're gonna introduce ourselves to you, explain what we do on this board, and just have a casual conversation. And we are going to go ahead and start with, well, I'll let her introduce herself. She's sitting right to my left. Go
Hey,
ahead, Jen.
Dan.
Hey, Jen.
Thanks for having me on. I'm Jennifer Baker, and I'm the operations officer here at Stewardship West.
Well, that's great. Hey, thanks for joining us, Jen. So just so you know, we're sitting in a VRBO in Bailey, Colorado, and Jennifer put this trip together. This is our second quarter board meeting. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, and so it was a great opportunity for all of us to get together, and this is actually the first time that most of us have met in person. So you want to go into a little more detail about what you do as a board member, and then also what you do as a principal officer of Stewardship West?
Yeah. So up until now, as operations officer, I'm basically doing assisting the CEO with his duties and doing bookkeeping, admin, human resources, and I mean we're a small organization. We've only been around for 2 years, so anything that Kevin does the CEO work and everything else, I help him with the.
Well, and you also look after him because you are his big sister, so you kind of help keep him in line and rein him in when he gets a little overzealous, right?
Yeah, I try to.
That's good. So what's your favorite thing since you've been working for Stewardship West? What's your favorite thing about the job?
I love the work that we do, the forest restoration work that we do, and I love the people that go along with this job. We work with our partners. The Forest Service is one of our partners, the different water agencies. One of those people who was with the water agency is now working with Stewardship West and has been just a great partner. And our contractors, our employees that we have, it's a fabulous group of people.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, you're so lucky that you get to be up here on these type of projects working outside, because the last 2 days going to the project site that we're at today, I mean, to be able to go to something like that regularly is just, it's amazing.
Absolutely.
And we'll post pictures of that on stewardshipwest.org so that listeners can see what we're talking about. But I mean, believe me, when you think about going to the forest, it's what you have in mind.
It is, and growing up, my dad was in the Forest Service, and so we grew up in the woods, hiking, camping.
I think anybody that likes coming to the forest could appreciate what we're trying to do here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And preventing the wildfires that can occur, the catastrophic wildfires that can and will occur if we don't start taking care of our forests.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And again, fire is a natural part of the ecosystem. I think people forget that it is natural. But with more and more people that move into the woods, and with the fire suppression over the past 10 or more years, and so it's altered the forest ecosystem. And not just the trees, but also the wildlife habitat. And so I think it's important to bring our forests back to what we like to say is the historic conditions.
Yeah. Right. You guys are doing a great job based off of what I've seen these last couple of days at that project. And just so you know, everybody out there, like I said, Jen put this trip together. She's not only the travel agent for this trip, she's the transportation specialist. She's also the food service specialist. She has done everything. This board meeting, none of this would have happened without what Jen's done, and it's been incredible.
Well, thanks, Dan.
No, thank you. We're going to move on to our next board member. We're going to keep in tradition of ladies first, since she just happens to be next in line. So our next board member that we're going to speak to is I'll let her introduce herself to us. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Rebecca.
hi. So I'm Becca Reed, and I came on to Stewardship West because of my friend Jen Baker. She kind of asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said, sure, sounds like a great idea. But anyway, she told me what it was all about, and it's a great thing to get behind. And so I said, definitely get on board. And yeah, I'm the treasurer on the board, so I just kind of keep, I guess, I don't know, I keep an eye on the finances, make sure everyone's above board and doing what they're supposed to do as far as that goes. So yeah.
What have you learned since you've joined this board? Like, what's something that
Oh.
you didn't know before that you've learned since you've done?
Lots of acronyms. And I don't know. To be honest, I'm still learning what those acronyms mean. Sometimes I forget, and I have to ask Jen over here, what does that one mean? But yeah,
Like
so
what?
no, I'm being kind of silly about that. But
I'm going to put you on the spot, Becca.
don't ask me POL.
I was just going to ask you POL.
What? See,
It's
that's what I mean.
Non-saw timber
Right, non-saw timber.
That-
But what
it's-
does the
so
P
it's-
stand for?
product
Product
other
other
than
than
lumber.
lumber.
Right,
There
the-
you go, folks.
The
That's
T,
it.
The T is silent in the acronym.
Ah,
is.
that's see,
Yeah.
that's what's screwing me up. See, so yeah, no, but I'm being silly. I've learned a lot actually, and actually this trip was amazing because I feel like I learned more about the health of the forest being here instead of just kind of like this, abstract thing when we're talking about it in a Zoom meeting. So
Right, yeah.
it's brilliant to be here, and I'm just going to reiterate what Dan said about Jen because she is our supreme organization leader. That's an acronym too. There you go.
It is. What
That's-
She's
what
great.
Was what was your first impression when we got out to the project site?
Oh wow. That it was just, well, first of all, it's beautiful out here, and the boulders are amazing, and just I don't know, it's being out in nature. It's God's country,
Yeah.
It's like just felt good without being too technical because I'm not a technical person and I don't know a whole lot about it, but I'm learning. So, but yeah, it's amazing. I'm learning all about it, and like I said, I'm learning all these new words and what it means and things I never even thought about before. I'm learning. So, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I agree. It has been a really amazing experience. We're going to move on to our newest board member, and I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Thanks, Dan. Excuse me. Thanks, Dan. My name's Robert Abernathy. I am the newest board member of Stewardship West. I am the chairman of the board. They elected me the chairman of the board today. And I am retired. I live in South Carolina, Aiken, South Carolina. I was born in North Carolina. Spent my career working in wildlife and conservation with several state agencies, federal agencies. Most recently, 17 years with National Wild Turkey Federation, moving turkeys all over the country, working with all the western states on turkey restoration and turkey relocations. And then I spent 10 years leading a nonprofit down in the southeastern United States called the Longleaf Alliance. And we were dealing with the restoration of the longleaf pine ecosystem and all the forest products that come out of that forest. If the landowner cannot afford to keep the trees, cannot afford to cut the trees, cannot afford to have the trees, they're going to sell them and we're not going to have the forest. So that was kind of my thrust for the last 10 years. And then I retired about 3 years ago, and I got called out of retirement by Stewardship West and asked to join them. And I learned about their mission, working with the Forest Service and other partners on restoring the western forest. And a big part of my job with the Turkey Federation and with the Longleaf Alliance was working with the state and federal agencies, doing exactly what we're going to be doing with Stewardship West, which is restoring forests. In many instances, there are actually too many trees in the forest. The sunlight does not get to the forest floor, and as a result of that, you do not get the grasses and the forbs and the shrubs that the elk and the deer The wild turkeys, all the non-game songbirds need to survive. It's pine needles on the forest floor. And if we can open that forest up, reduce the amount of trees that are on the ground, it does a number of things. It's pretty cool because it provides food for the wildlife, cover for the wildlife, and it provides a break in the forest canopy where when a wildfire does occur, when it hits the areas that we're working in, the fire will lay right down and provide our wildland firefighters an opportunity to get in there and get the fire out before it sweeps on down the slope to where people are living in the woods, or very importantly, into the watersheds that are providing water for the western cities. We've been working with Aurora and Denver, Colorado on doing some of this work in their watersheds so that we don't get these catastrophic wildfires that can destroy thousands of acres of land and thousands of acres of timber and destroy what holds the soil together. And when you don't have this holding the soil together, it starts flowing down the hills and into the reservoirs, reducing the capacity of the reservoirs, reducing the water quality, and severely impacting the water that all these, everybody that lives in the West needs and knows about. Everybody knows about that. So it's my pleasure to be here. I'm real excited about being here.
Well, we're glad to have you. I tell you, you being around the last few days, I've learned more about what our mission is with this nonprofit, just by listening to you and being inspired from your knowledge and your experience, and also your experience as a board member and what you can bring to this board for this nonprofit. It's got me excited to work with you.
Well, thank you. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
It is going to be fun. I think so, especially the next couple of days. We'll talk about that on a later episode.
All right, good.
So the next person, our next board member we're going to have introduce himself is actually, he's supposed to be the co-host of this podcast, and we live only 20 miles away from each other, but it took coming to 3 states away for us to actually be able to sit down and do a podcast together. I'm going to let him introduce himself.
Thank you for the. Is this on?
Yeah.
Thanks for the intro, Dan. Mike Dosher. I'm the board secretary, so I get to take all the notes, keep the minutes and the agendas. Yeah, and I'm also helping out with the podcast and helping out where I'm needed.
So, Mike, what's been your biggest take so far of coming to Bailey, Colorado, and being able to go see the Miller Gulch and the Jerome Miller and the Miller Gulch project?
Yeah, it's really neat to see a forest management and getting the forest cleaned up. All the all the fuel for fires being cleaned out. I thought it was pretty good going up there.
Yeah. All right. Well, the next person we're going to have talk, he can introduce himself, but if you've listened to any of the other episodes that we've done so far, he really needs no introduction.
I'm the loudest.
Yes, he is. I actually have his mic turned down a little bit, and he's still
Smart.
louder than everybody else. I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself.
All right. Well, thanks, Dan. Kevin Zeman, President, CEO, Stewardship West. First thing I want to know is when do we get to go turkey hunting? But no, it's been absolutely awesome having everybody here this week to showcase. You've heard me talk before, I guess, on the podcast. This is my other baby, right? Having this Stewardship West, to have these kind of people here is awesome. So to be able to show our project, to show it to our board, to our partners that we have out there, is really important to see what's being done and see the before and afters right across the street from each other, and start noticing that if you guys have been talking a lot about wildfire, we're trying to protect all this movement up to the mountains, and it's a good movement, but we got to protect it. And you see up there at Jerome Miller Gulch, where if something were to happen and we get a strike or you get some kind of a start up there, it's gonna drop that fire down real good, and do some protection and do what we need to do with our mission to help protect our forest, for not only for us but our future generations. other thing we've been talking about a lot with this board is how we all have kids, you know, some older and some younger, and that's we got to protect this for those. You know, we got wildlife, we got a lot of other issues out there we're protecting, but those kids are important. Educating them, getting them out there to look at this as well, but we want to make sure it's just there so they can go enjoy what we get to go enjoy these days. And so, anyways, it's been awesome to have everybody. So I just appreciate it and look forward to the next adventure. Is that loud enough?
That's funny loud. That's funny loud. So I've asked everybody, what's one thing you've taken away from this trip? Obviously, you've been up to this project site many times, but what's been different for you this trip?
You know, I guess the biggest thing that keeps hitting me is the pace and scale. We're trying to increase pace and scale for the U.S. Forest Service out there, and to be able to see how much work we're getting done at such a quick pace with the great contractor we have out there with VM West, and that's so special to me to keep watching that happen, and more acres get treated, because you literally can watch that before and after right in front of your eyes, and so I love being able to go up there every day and every time we're up here and see that new improvement. And it's not a, oh, look over there, that's done. It's vast. Like it'd take a long time to walk around this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's some acreage there, and I tell you that to stand in the middle of a road and have to your left is a zone that hasn't been treated, and then to your right is an area that was treated and completed last year. The contrast is amazing. It's real life before and after picture. It's amazing, and could you describe from the start of this project to where you're at where we are at right now? Can you give everybody a timeline on how quickly this has progressed and how many acres have been treated since the start?
Well, that's good. They're cutting about 10 acres a day right now, and it started late January of 2022, and here we sit on April 18th, 2023, and we're about 3/4 of the way done of a 15-acre project. So we're around 700 and 800 acres at 10 acres a day, probably about 810 acres after today, because they're actively cutting right now. So that's probably about what's done.
Right. And when you're saying cutting, they're not clear cutting up there.
No.
This is a precision operation.
Yeah, it's a very, very, it's been marked by the Forest Service to a specific prescription. As a silviculturist, I'm very aware of those prescription, and it's a wildlife / fuels reduction type cut, and you got to remember, if you ever are to go up and look at something like this, you go, wow, and there's a lot of trees that are gone, but there really isn't, because if you look around, if you take the 30,000 foot approach and you look down, and you go, oh, that's just a small little sliver of what the general forest is. You know, most of these forests are millions and millions of acres, right? So when we only cut about 1,500, yeah, it's nice that we get that done, but there's a lot of other forests out there that we're protecting by putting that fuel break in there. So
Absolutely. And if you stand in the middle of this project, to one side you have, what was the burn called, Jen?
There's on one side is the Buffalo Creek fire burn, and then the High Meadow.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Yep. On one side is the Buffalo Creek fire, and on the other side is the High Meadow.
And so the Buffalo Creek, if I'm orientating myself properly when we're out there, the Buffalo Creek fire is basically where the land is bare. Am I correct on that one?
Actually, both of them.
Both of them, and I mean nothing. There's just a couple burnt stands of trees in bare ground,
like the
correct?
stumps.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
And the Buffalo Creek fire was 1996, and the High Meadow was 2000.
Right.
yeah, and
And it just takes a long time.
that sediment load too, we're learning. We got another guest here joining us, so that'll be good to talk to him about that sediment load that brings down to these rivers. Has been a big problem for these local water agencies, and we're really hoping we don't want to stop fire. I want to make sure that's clear. We're not trying to stop fire. Fire is good, right? We just want to stop the large catastrophic fire. So if it can go in there and underburn, that's a good thing. We want that to happen.
Right.
We just want it to be the right kind of fire, not the wrong kind of fire.
Right. All right. Well, thank you, Kevin. Thanks a lot. Obviously, we will be putting more and more pictures on stewardshipwest.org. Correct? Did I get the website right?
You got it.
All right.
Good job.
We'll update you with photos from this project.
And we're on LinkedIn. We're on Instagram. Stewardship
Facebook.
West is LinkedIn.
YouTube.
Yeah, Instagram.
Rumble.com.
Yeah, that's right. All that.
Yeah, we're almost kind of technological.
And I'll be around all the time on these podcasts, I'm sure, because I'm the only one that knows what I'm doing.
Well,
but
nobody
that's all
else
right.
wants to do it with me, so I have to rely on you.
I might be your new co-host,
Yeah,
right?
you may be. You may be. So those that is the majority. That is almost all of the board of Stewardship West. I am also on the board. Kevin asked me a couple years ago if I would be willing to be on the board of Stewardship West, and I told him yes, as long as I could have the job with the least amount of responsibility and work. So they made me the vice president and said, "You're in charge of the podcast." So my role with Stewardship West is this podcast and
Keep me on my toes.
Keeping Kevin.
Kevin on his toes. But also my new role is I'm going to learn as much as I can from Robert Abernathy about what it's like and what a board member is supposed to do for a nonprofit. And I'm looking really forward to that. I'm really excited about it. We have another guest here today who I'm going to let him introduce himself, and he has more experience, more knowledge, and definitely practical knowledge about this area and why we're doing this project. I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself.
Hi, I'm Mike McHugh. I used to work for Aurora Water for 25 years. Before that, I worked for the Department of Natural Resources and City of Boulder Open Space Program. So I have a lot of different views of the outdoors and how to work with it and protect it. When I was working at Aurora, right after I started, we had the several fires, and the sediment load coming into our major reservoir, Strontia Springs Reservoir, which is right below the confluence of the North Fork of the South Platte and the main stem of the South Platte. And it was designed to be the afterbay for a larger reservoir called Two Forks that was going to be over 1 million acre feet. But that's all we have there now. It's about a 7,000 acre foot reservoir. And after the fires, we lost 15% of the storage capacity of that reservoir. And it's the important point for the diversion of all of Aurora's water, surface water, and about 80% of Denver water's water supply that supplies the South Metro area. So it's a very critical piece of infrastructure that needs to be protected.
Mike, are they dredging that because of all that sediment?
They had once, and it poses a very unique problem. And one of the reasons we have all of this sediment coming in is the major bedrock unit here is Pikes Peak granite. And when it decomposes, it forms this little kernels or little granules. And anyway, it crumbles into the reservoir and fills it up very quickly.
Well, so that's a good question. With that Pikes Peak granite, it's also kind of magical for us, isn't it? Because our contractors are able to keep working throughout the winter months, which we didn't quite discuss that yet. But you know a lot about why they can keep working all winter long.
Yeah, the ground is very porous, so when the snow melts, the water sinks into the ground very quickly, and it keeps it fairly dry.
Yeah, we've been really lucky with that. Where wet, dry. There's breakup, they call it spring breakup, where weather comes in and makes it so these big machines can't really run because they start rutting up the ground so bad, and it's like magic out there almost. It's like being on a gravel road is the way I experience, or I tell people, and everywhere it stays really nice. It's not really muddy, and it allows us to keep that progress going up there because of that magical Pikes Peak granite.
Yeah, it's absolutely wonderful for that.
Yeah.
Not so wonderful in the bottom of a reservoir.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right. So, Mike, you were here. I mean, you lived through those fires, and you saw the the continual damage that it caused to your guys' watershed system. Why is a project like the Jerome Miller Gulch project so important to the watershed?
It ties into a lot of the natural topography here, and is being located between the two previous fires. It provides a big fire break across the landscape, and would keep fire from spreading further to the east. We have primarily westerly or southwesterly winds here. Doesn't mean that we wouldn't have other issues. We could always have a lightning strike on the other side of the break, but anytime we can use natural outcrops and other areas to break up the landscape, and this one fits perfectly into that scenario.
Yeah, right on.
We got a lot of chimneys, I guess. I remember my old firefighter days. You get a lot of chimneys where you got a lot of canyons around here on this side of the Front Range, so you could see how these fires can ignite and run real fast under the current conditions as well.
The Buffalo Creek fire ran 11 miles in less than a day.
That's something, isn't it? Yeah.
It's a lot of damage.
Wow.
All right. Does anybody else have anything to conclude this with? Anything that they want to say before we end this? Because I know we got to hit the road.
We gotta go turkey hunting
Yeah, I could tell
with
you.
all the turkey masters, with the Stanley B's and the Robert Abernathys, and we're looking forward to that.
We're 27 minutes into this, and Kevin wanted this thing to be over 45 minutes ago because he is ready to go.
Yeah, car's packed.
Yeah, except for all of my stuff. All right, so hey, everybody out there, like I said, we have multiple social media outlets. I can't remember them right now because I want to get out of here too. But go to stewardshipwest.org,
Bingo.
and that will lead you to
Pictures,
that will lead you in all
news,
directions.
all kinds of fun stuff.
Yes, sir. Yes,
T-
sir.
Talking Tuesdays,
Teaching Tuesdays.
Teaching Tuesdays. Excuse me very much.
Yeah.
So excited about that. Yeah, come on, see. Check us.
We're gonna bring all kinds of cool
Hopefully some
stuff to
pictures
you.
of some turkeys.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Hey, I want to thank everybody here for joining us today, the board members. Jen, thank you for this amazing trip. This has been incredible.
Oh, you're very welcome, and we thank you guys for coming all this way to join Kevin and I, and for us to show you the Jerome Miller Gulch project. So, and we thank you for taking the time, for being a board member, all of you being on the board. So we really appreciate your time and efforts.
I can't speak for them, but it's my pleasure. All right, well, thank you, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
All right, bye.